And here we go with our April 1st power rankings. It's probably appropriate that we're recording this on April Fool's Day. You're going to actually hear this after April Fool's Day, but it's probably appropriate that we're recording this on this day. It's really difficult to rank teams right now for a lot of reasons, which we'll get into as we go through this. We're going to do it draft style. We haven't done one of these roundtable drafts in a while. Okay, here's our draft order that we're going to do this in. So I have the first pick. Scott has the second pick. Doug has the third pick. Mary Kay has the fourth pick. We're doing a straight draft, so no snake. And we're going to do all 16 AFC teams. So I'm going to start us off. I don't know if this is going to be controversial. And I've wrestled kind of like, I said to myself, if I have the number one pick, am I going to be chalky or am I going to take a risk? There's one team that's really risky that I'm not going to take. But I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills, number one, to start us off. There's a little recency bias here. The Tyreek Hill trade, I don't think it makes the Chiefs a worse team, but it doesn't make the Chiefs non-contenders. I still believe Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I'm putting the Bills number one because it kind of goes back to that Mahomes-Josh Allen shootout. And I feel like this is a football team that maybe didn't get significantly better. Now, they did go out and add Von Miller. It's a huge signing. I like Jamison Crowder. They lost Cole Beasley. I like the Jamison Crowder addition. I think he's a nice receiver. But I also am just kind of banking on this idea that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have been sitting around all offseason thinking about what could have been. And maybe this is a little bit like a few years ago when the Chiefs lost that weird game to the Patriots and Dee Ford went off sides and the Patriots scored and Patrick Mahomes never got to see the football in overtime. And the Chiefs came back and won the Super Bowl the next year. I feel like this might be kind of we're going to go show everybody this season for the Buffalo Bills. So this is a little bit of like, I think that's a really good football team, but I also think this is sort of an intangible thing too, where I think it's going to be like, hey, we're really pissed off about what happened last year, and we're going to spend September through February showing everybody how angry we were. So I'm going with the Buffalo Bills number one.
I went with the Bills number one as well. So I'm with you on this. And I think the number one reason why I did it was because as much as I admire Patrick Mahomes and believe that he still is the best quarterback in the AFC right now, I just think that connection between Patrick and Tyreek is so vitally important. I mean, they are synonymous with each other. It's so hard for me to imagine Patrick being as good as he is without Tyreek making those astonishing plays all over the place. Now, the only small thing that I would give me a little bit of pause on the Bills is, they're not without. I mean, they are without Brian Daboll this year, and I think he's had a tremendous impact on Josh Allen. He's just been so good for Josh Allen, and play calling is important. Play calling is important in the NFL.
Scott, you're up at number two.
Yeah, so what I did is I went and I found other power rankings, and I kind of did an aggregate. I found 5 ones that I kind of trust, or at least as much as you can at this point in the year. And I went through and kind of took out all the AFC teams and went with that. So the Bills were first because they were first in 3 of them. They were second in 2 of them. But this number 2 team was first in 2 of them, third in 2 of them, and second once. So they, I just kind of use a point system. They ended with 10 points. So it's the Bengals, which I hate because I think the Bengals were a lucky team last year. I don't know. When I look at like 3, 4, and 5 on my list here, though, I'm like, well, I mean, might as well be the Bengals. Just looking at how they made their way through the playoffs, they got lucky. They obviously persevered. You can call them a team of destiny, whatever. But I think maybe they deserve to be this high because now they come back. They made huge changes to the offensive line. Your quarterback, did he lead the league in sacks? I think he led the league in sacks if you count the playoffs. Yeah. So now they've addressed that problem. And now you have a young core that has experience in the playoffs and getting to the Super Bowl. So that's not nothing. So I went with the Bengals number 2.
All right. Well, then, Doug, you're up at number 3.
Guess who I'm taking? The team I had first. The team that before this podcast started, Dan Labbe made a joke about this team, and I'm taking the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers, see, because I think it's not. The Chargers lost that goofy overtime game to the Chiefs in the last month of the regular season last year. And then they lost the most ridiculous game we ever saw in the regular season in the history of the NFL to the Raiders at the end of last year. And they missed the playoffs. I don't think there's anything about the Bengals and the Chargers that would separate the chances of the Chargers having the kind of postseason run that the Bengals had if the Chargers hadn't tripped over their own feet and not even made the playoffs. They added J.C. Jackson, the best free agent cornerback in the offseason. They traded for Khalil Mack to add him to Joey Bosa. They have Derwin James. They re-signed Mike Williams when people thought he might leave. They still have Keenan Allen. And Herbert, I think Herbert is ready for the explosive jump.
All right. So Mary Kay, you are up to wrap up the first round here.
All right. I am going to wrap up the first round with, and I feel pretty good about this. I'm going to wrap up the first round with the Kansas City Chiefs, because you know what? I still really like Patrick Mahomes. And as I mentioned before, when you're dealing with excellent quarterbacks, they can cover up for some ills, and they can get you places where you normally wouldn't be able to go. And now there's a lot of those kind of guys, but I still think that Patrick is pretty darn amazing.
All right, second round. I'm looking at my remaining list. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put the Browns here. I'm looking at who else I would pick in this spot. I've got Denver near here. I've got Indianapolis near here. There's nobody else that really moves the needle for me, honestly, in this spot. And I actually would have taken the Browns ahead of the Bengals too. So I would have made them the first AFC North team. Now, this is complicated, right? Because this is, first of all, I don't think this team is complete. I don't know who the number 2 receiver is. I don't know who the number 2 edge rusher is. I don't know if Deshaun Watson is going to be able to play before November. There's a lot of questions on this football team, but I can't take anybody else ahead of them in this spot. And like I said, I would have taken them I would probably have gone like Browns 4, Bengals 5. Like I said, if I were writing this out on my own. Does anyone want to make an argument here for a team being ahead of the Browns?
I think if you're arguing for anybody else here other than the Browns, you're trying too hard. Or you're assuming Deshaun Watson doesn't play it down this year. I think those are the only two. Like, you're overthinking it, or you're just imagining the Browns with Jacoby Brissett, because I had him third on my list, and I think there's kind of like a top 5 in the AFC. As much as there's a mishmash, I think these are the 5.
I also had them third. So, Doug, it looks to me like our 2, 3, and 4 that were the same: Chiefs, Browns, and Bengals, right?
Yes.
Our 2, 3, and 4 were the same. We just had different number 1s. So I had the Browns third. And one of the reasons I had them third is because I walked away from the NFL annual meeting feeling like the NFL is not going to hand down this incredibly lengthy suspension. I could be wrong about that, but it seems to me that the fact that he got, no build or non-indictments on his 2 grand jury configurations, that I just don't think that they're going to suspend him for 8 games. I think if anything, it's going to be maybe 4 or something like that. And I think they can overcome 4 games and still make the playoffs and win the division. And then when he's back, anything can happen. And when you add Amari Cooper and you add Deshaun Watson to a team that really just was pretty much elite quarterback play away from contending for the playoffs, then I just think that they'll be right up there with anybody else.
I didn't have them placed in a specific number. I had a second tier group of teams that had 7 teams in them, and they were included in that. The highest they were ranked was kind of 6th. That was from PFF, which kind of ran simulations and had them coming out at 9.3 wins. That is accounting for a 6-game suspension for Deshaun Watson. So 9 wins with Jacoby Brissett playing 6 games. they were out there. Other than that, though, you're looking at like 9th, 11th, 10th, 9th. So I kind of wanted to see where this played out. I agree that you could certainly, like, best case scenario, best version, certainly they could be top 5. It's just what version is going to play the first half of the season. But I can live with them there. I mean, like I said, I didn't really put numbers on them. The only numbers I had were the top 4, the bottom 3, and the Steelers, who were 13th, period.
Oh, way to spoil that, Scott. Way to give that away.
They ended up 13th on every single ranking I looked at. So if anybody picks them other than 13th,
I have him at number 13.
I'm going to be shocked.
I'm
I'm just saying.
I also have them at 13.
Ow.
Oh my God.
That's
so
crazy.
All right, so our top 5, and I think this is probably kind of that first tier, although there is another team out there that I would maybe put in this group. But Buffalo, Cincinnati, LA, Kansas City, and then the Browns. And I think you could put those teams in any order, and I don't think there would be much of an argument. But Scott, you are up now with the second pick in the second round, number 6 overall.
Man, like I said, there's a big jumble here for me. I could just go with my aggregate rankings here and make it easy, but heck, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say the Broncos.